Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, if you do enjoy the video that you came here to watch, do me a favor, go ahead and hit that little red subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. It really does help my audience grow. It really does help this channel grow. It means more than you realize. So go ahead, hit that little red button. Also, remember, full episodes of the Aaron Torres Podcast, wherever you download your podcast, Apple, Spotify, etc. Now, here is the video that you came here for. That is the college football coaching carousel. Now, we're not going to do, to quote, Rod Tidwell from Jerry Maguire, we're not going to do what you all think we're going to do, which is talk about somebody that got fired, somebody that got hired, whatever, at least not at the college level. We know that as of right now, there are 5 jobs that are open. More are expected, including Auburn. But as I record, Brian Harsin is still gainfully employed by Auburn University. And so what I want to do is switch gears to the NFL, where we got a very interesting name now suddenly available. That is Matt Rhule. He was, as I record 24 hours ago, the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. But after a 1-4 start to the season, after 2 disastrous years, Matt Rhule was fired by the Carolina Panthers. But just because Matt Rhule did not make it as an NFL head coach, it does not mean that in a different life, he was not a very, very, very good college football coach. And so with Matt Rhule now available, he is going to be the apple of the eye of every program that is hiring a head coach this offseason, along with the usual names, Deion Sanders, Hugh Freeze, if you can get Lane Kiffin away, whatever. But what I would tell you is that I do believe that there is one spot that Matt Rhule would be absolutely perfect for, and it's a spot that has to make a move right now. I am talking about the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and if you are Nebraska, do not wait. Make that call today. If you got to get on a plane and help him clean out his office at Carolina, you do it. I believe this guy is the perfect fit for Nebraska, the perfect coach, and the guy that they have to go get regardless of the money involved. And there will be a lot of money involved, as we'll discuss in a minute. First of all, before we even get into the Nebraska element of it, you're going to hear people over the next couple of days, oh, he's not that good of a coach, blah, blah, blah. He's a very good coach. I do think that what we learned from the Matt Rhule experiment in the NFL is pretty straightforward. People are going to say, oh, it's because he's a college coach. College coaches don't work. The guy was overrated all along, whatever. No, the reason that Matt Rhule didn't work, it's pretty straightforward. He never found a quarterback. And I think increasingly more and more in the NFL, if you do not have the right quarterback, you're not going to win. Point blank, end of story. It does not matter. And so, you go from Teddy Bridgewater to Sam Darnold to Baker Mayfield. It just has not worked. And I think this is an important lesson for all of not just college coaches, but anybody thinking about taking a head coaching job in the NFL. If you don't have that elite quarterback, you might as well not even apply. Don't even bother showing up because you're not going to win. There's a reason that Sean Payton has said, when I go back to the NFL, it's going to be about ownership, it's going to be about the front office, and it's going to be about the quarterback. And my guess is that if he put them in order, quarterback would actually be number one. So don't buy that Matt Rhule forgot how to coach or he was overrated all along. No, he's a really good coach. There was a reason that everybody wanted him 3 years ago when he went to the NFL. And there's a reason now when he comes back to college, if he does indeed decide to do so, that he should be and will be the hottest candidate. This guy is very much, especially at the college level, he was excellent in 2 stops as a head coach in college, okay? He goes to Temple, year 1, not good, 1-11. By year 3, they won 10 games, and then he followed it up a year later, by the way, with 10 more wins at Temple. After that 2013 season, 2012 season, whatever it was, maybe even a little bit later, he ends up leaving Temple and he goes to Baylor. And I'll tell you, at the time I said, I don't know if that's the right fit, Northeast guy, Baylor, whatever. And if you remember, he inherited a dumpster fire at Baylor. This was post-Art Briles, so again, the 2014-2015 range. You had all sorts of criminal activity. You had just bad behavior across the board. I'm not going to relitigate all of it, but you can go back and see all the things that were going on in the program. It was absolute chaos. Matt Rhule inherits a dumpster fire, and by year 3, so he goes 1-11 in year 1. By year 2, he wins 7 games to get Baylor bowl eligible. Do you remember what he did in year 3? Do you remember what he did in year 3? He played for a Big 12 championship, Played for a Big 12 championship, and they were 11-1 going into that game. Meaning if he won the Big 12 championship game in year 3, Baylor would have gone to the college football playoff. Now, they did lose to Oklahoma. It is worth noting in overtime of the Big 12 championship game. So you talk about right on the brink of being in the playoff. They were almost the 4 seed that year in 2019. Instead, they lose. They go to the Sugar Bowl. They lose to Georgia, and he goes off to the NFL. But just think about what I just said. From 1-11 in year one to 11-1 in year three in a total complete rebuild. And what I love about what he did there was he wasn't too prideful that I have to do it my way and this is how we're going to do it. No, he went to Texas. He hired a bunch of Texas people with Texas roots, most notably Joey McGuire, who's now the head coach at Texas Tech. And he said, let's build us a program. And oh, by the way, a lot of the players that were on the Baylor team that won the Big 12 last year under Dave Aranda, I'm not saying Dave Aranda can't coach. What I am saying is Matt Rhule left the cupboard full. Tyquan Thornton, wide receiver for the Patriots. JT Woods, All-American last year. Those were guys recruited by Matt Rhule that were left over that turned into a Big 12 champion. And so Matt Rhule can coach. Matt Rhule is the best candidate available unless you believe Urban Meyer is available. And if I am Nebraska, you have to make the move right now because he checks every single box for you if you were Nebraska. Just think about it. He's a program builder. He's coached all over the country. There's this notion that, you can't win at Nebraska, no natural recruiting base. Well, he recruited well in the Northeast. He recruited well in the Southwest. He's going to recruit well at Nebraska. Program builder. He's got a plan. He's got an identity. You know who you are. He kind of coaches in a way that I think would, there's some physicality involved, but some spread. He coaches in a way that I think would be really well received at Nebraska. And I just think this is the perfect time for him to go to Nebraska for two reasons. One, if you hire him soon. Now, me personally, I'd be on a plane in Carolina with a couple cardboard boxes if I was Trev Alberts, helping him pack up that office of his. But even if you're a little more patient, you want to hire him soon for a pretty straightforward reason. You hire him soon, he can go on the road and start recruiting for you like right now. He can also evaluate your staff. And so you're talking about a guy that could potentially get a 6-week head start on this thing. This is why you fire Scott Frost in September. This is why you try to make a hire if the right fit is there in October, because that guy can go on the road and recruit for 5 weeks, in the lead up to signing day. He can be in high schools. He can be on the road. He doesn't have to worry about planning for practice. He doesn't have to worry about media availability. He can also evaluate the coaches that are currently on the staff. He can evaluate the roster as it currently is. And if you think about what he did at Baylor, from 1-11 to 11-1, he did that in the pre-transfer portal, pre-NIL world. And that's why I think Nebraska is really the only job that makes sense for him. Auburn, I'll be honest, I know Auburn isn't technically open. He doesn't feel Auburn to me. Colorado can't afford him. Wisconsin, I think, wants to go with Jim Leonard. Arizona State can't afford him. Who else? Georgia Tech. I mean, is he going to go to Georgia Tech? I guess he could. Atlanta, whatever. I don't think it makes a ton of sense there. But Nebraska, a guy from Pennsylvania that's coached in the Big Ten footprint already when he was at Temple. Temple's not in the Big Ten, but they're in the Big Ten footprint. It makes sense with recruiting ties again to the Midwest and the Southwest in Texas. And so to me, it's just an absolute no-brainer. Get him in right now, program builder. And in the NIL portal world, I believe he can flip this thing pretty quickly. On top of that, listen, I just think he's the perfect fit. But what I would say as I start to wrap up is it's not going to be easy to get him. Because I will say that Adam Schefter threw out a very interesting nugget as it pertains to Matt Rhule on Twitter following his firing. So Adam Schefter from ESPN, he put out that Matt Rhule, as part of his firing, will be owed $40 million in buyout money. $40 million in buyout money. By the way, that makes college buyouts look like nothing. Scott Frost, $15 million to go away. Yeah, whatever. They got paid $40 million to go away. So chances are pretty good this guy doesn't want to rush back into coaching after getting fired. And so that's why I do think if you're Nebraska, you can't insult him with an offer. This is big boy football now, big boy coaching opportunity with a big boy coach. You got to go out there and make him the proverbial offer that he can't refuse, okay? Remember, we live in a world where college football coaches now get paid $10+ million a year. Kirby Smart, well over $10 million. Dabo, well over $10 million. Nick Saban, well over $10 million. And I'm not saying Matt Rhule is one of those guys. But Brian Kelly got $10 million to go to LSU. Can he have Nebraska in the top 15, top 12, top 10 within year 3, year 4? I think so. So this to me is almost like a Brian Kelly to LSU type deal. I know he's not as accomplished as Brian Kelly was in college, but it's that kind of deal. Brian Kelly makes about $9 million, $9.5 million a year. Mel Tucker, by the way, makes $9.5 million a year. So don't tell me you can't come up with the money, especially when you're in Nebraska. Remember, Nebraska just paid Scott Frost, $15 million to go away. They paid him an extra $7.5 million to fire him before October 1st just to get him out of the building. On top of that, you're going to get $70+ million a year just from TV money starting in 2024. And so to me, this is a no-brainer. This is a move that has to be made, and I don't think you can wait if you're Nebraska. And if you're Nebraska, don't go low. Don't go cheap. Don't go whatever. Don't penny pinch. Go in. If I was Trev Alberts, this is what I'd do. I won't even ask my boosters. I mean, you probably should ask your boosters. 10 years, $100 million. 10 years, $100 million. I just say, that's our starting point. Is that cool with you? Let's get rocking. You're going to build Nebraska. We're going to build you a statue. I don't care what happened in Carolina. Our fans don't have what happened in Carolina. We're going to build you a freaking statue at Nebraska. Let's get to work. Let's get going. Worth noting, by the way, again, Nebraska, I'm telling you, this job in the 12-team playoff era with the transfer portal and NIL, I believe they can be a top 15 team. I believe they can make multiple playoff appearances as the second, third, fourth best team in the Big Ten. This is a good job. This is a better job than it was when Scott Frost took over a few years ago. It's not Bama. It's not LSU. It's not USC. It's not Ohio State. But it's a good job. You got time. The right candidate is out there. Make the move, Nebraska. You will not regret it. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube channel. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the Aaron Torres Podcast. New episodes every single day. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you listen to your podcast.